So there's this old story about Satyavan and Sivitri. And Satyavan was a man and Sivitri was a woman, and they loved each other. They loved each other so much. And this ancient story is found in this book called the Book of the Forest. And it's about Sivitri and Satyavan and their love and what happened to them. And pretty much what happened was that Satyavan almost lost his life. And Sivitri did some things to help Satyavan get his life back, right? So death almost claimed Satyavan, and Sivitri did some things to get his life back. So this guy, Deepak Chopra, what he did was he took that old story and he introduced another guy by the name of Ramana. Ramana's a monk, right? Ramana's a monk who has been around a little while, and he knows a few things. He's watched some things happen in the world, and he knows a few things. And so Deepak introduces this guy in this old story, and he's going to help I'm going to screw her name, Sivitri. I want to say Satira, right? But he's going to help Sivitri figure some things out that's going to help her save Satyavan's life, okay? All right, so this is the story, right? So one day, Savitri's at home, and she's just doing the stuff she does at home. She's cleaning up around the house. She's making some stuff. She's preparing a meal. She's helping prepare some things. She's just doing the stuff that matters to her, whatever that stuff is. And one day, while she's going about this business at home, she looks out her window and she sees someone sitting on a rock in her front yard. Now, she lived in a part of the world where it was really important to be hospitable. Everybody know what hospitality is, right? What it means to be hospitable. It means you look out for other people, right? You share the things that you have. You take care of them. You treat them as if they are a member of your family. And so she sees this man sitting on a rock. She figures he's a monk wandering by. And so she quickly gathers some things for him to possibly eat, and she runs out and takes it to him. And when she goes to do this, she realizes, or he says, no, I don't want anything to eat. I'm just waiting. And she realizes who he is. Guess who he is? I haven't told you enough where you might even be able to venture a reasonable guess. It's death. Now he refers to he calls himself Yama. Yama is his name, and he's the guy who's in charge of death. And he's sitting here on this rock, and he's waiting. He's waiting for Satyavan to come home, because he's going to take Satyavan on with him. Now, Sivitri has been waiting for this to happen. She knew this was going to happen. Someone had told her a year before, when she was about to get married, that if you marry this man, your heart's going to be broken because he's going to die very quickly. She was like, listen, my heart has chosen this man to love, and it will not choose another. I'm going to marry this guy, Satyavan. So that's what she did. And the reason he wasn't home, because he was a woodcutter. Anybody know what woodcutters do? They cut wood. I mean, that's pretty straightforward, right? He chops down trees. He's gone out into the forest. That's why you got the story of the Book of the Forest, right? Right? He went out into the forest and he's cutting down trees. And Yama, whose name is, who's also known as what? Death. Death is sitting here and he's waiting for Satyavan, the woodcutter. When Satyavan comes back, he's going to take Satyavan with him. And so Sivitri sees him and knows what's going on, and she just goes into a fit. She's like, oh no, you cannot take my husband. You just can't do it. I'm not going to let you do it. What can I do to stop? And she's trying to figure out what, and Yama's like, I will not be denied, my friend. I don't have to get upset. This is going to happen. This is just pretty much how this is going to go down today. And she's trying to figure out what she can do. She runs back in the house and she starts to pray and she starts to think and she starts to wonder. And finally, she remembers a place, this quiet place, this place that's almost at the center of the world, this place that's almost about the size of a cave, maybe a cave about the size of this room. And it's a place where things are still and where things are quiet. And she remembers that there is this place, and in that place lives a man, a wise man who we might think of as a monk. His name is Ramana, right? wanted to say something else, but it wasn't Ramana, right? So his name's Ramana. And so she says, I will go, I will go, I will find this man, Ramana. I will find him and find out what, if there's anything I can do to save my husband's life. So she gets there. She searches for that place. It wasn't easy to find. It takes a long time. She gets lost in the woods. She finds herself like chasing these rabbit trails and these deer trails, and she finds herself stumbling through the water and tripping over rocks and getting smacked by the trees and the leaves and the branches, and she doesn't know where she's going, but she finally finds this place where Ramana is, and Ramana tells her to go away. She says, no, I can't go away. You must understand. Death, Yama has come for my husband, and I need to find out what's going on. After a lot of back and forth, Ramana finally decides he's going to deal with her. He says, I sense in you you're desperate enough. Who knew that desperateness had something to do with fighting death? Right? He said, now what if I could tell you the cure to death? If I could tell you guys the cure to death, would you want to know? Would you want to know the cure to death?
Yes.
Well, Ramana asked her, what if I could tell you the cure to death? And she says, and she said, you know the cure? He said, well, first off, you started to believe a rumor. She said, what are you talking about? She said, you started to believe a rumor, this rumor about this thing called death. She said, what do you mean? She said, well, who told you death was true? She said, have you ever known anything but life? And she thought. She said, no, I've never known anything but life. No, don't just blow this off. Now, I want you to think about it. And I want you guys to think about it. Tell me now, have you ever known anything other than life? Do you remember a time before life? No? Do you remember a time before being aware that you were alive? No. She couldn't. Sivitri couldn't either. Sivitri couldn't remember a time either. And so Ramana told her, see, so what made you think there was a beginning to life? Was it just because your parents told you that they saw you emerge from the womb and therefore they called that the beginning? Right? She said, he said, but look at that brook there. You see it emerging from the forest, right? It's coming around the corner in the forest. Is that the beginning of the brook? And just because you stop seeing it over there and it rounds that corner, is that the end of the brook? Right? You say you know there's a beginning, and you say that you know there's an end, but how do you know? That's a rumor. All you know is what you see at this time. Right, so maybe we should stop believing in the rumor that there's a beginning and an end. Which, when I heard that part of the story, it reminded me, Jesus said something very similar to his disciples. He said this thing. He said his friend Lazarus had died. And Lazarus' sisters were there and they were upset. And Jesus said, don't cry. He's just sleeping. He'll wake up again. And she said, no, I know that in the last day he'll live again. He said, no, you got to understand. Those that believe in me, not only will they, if they die, they'll live. There's those, if you choose to believe in life now, you don't ever have to die. Right? So, back to this story. Right? So Sivitri wanted to believe in this. She wanted to have faith that this was true. But she was afraid. She was afraid. You know, what would that mean? A life with no death, a life with no beginning, with no end. She didn't know what to do with that. So they walked along, and Ramana told her some more stories. He told her some other things. He kept trying to get her to understand. It was kind of like they were going around this flame over and over and over again. They kept looking at the flame, and Ramana kept saying something about the flame, that flame being kind of like life, the light of life. He kept telling her the things about it, but she was afraid, right? So this is one of the stories he told her. He said, now, listen here. I don't know that I can save your husband. I don't know that what I can tell you can save your husband. You say death is sitting on a rock right there at in your front yard. I'm not sure I can save him, but I can tell you this. It has happened before. It has happened before. There's a story told of a man, a holy man, who wanted a son. And God didn't give him a son. And he wanted a son. He and his wife wanted a son so bad. And so they prayed and prayed and prayed. And prayed and prayed and prayed. And prayed and prayed and prayed. And God wouldn't answer, but the holy man was patient. So he kept praying. And he kept praying. And finally, God came down to speak to him and said, you know what? I've been hearing you. Because you've been praying and praying and praying. You've been patient about this thing, yet persistent about this thing, trying to get at this thing called life here. I'm going to answer your prayer, but I'm going to give you a choice. This is the choice here. You can have 1,000 sons, but they'll all be foolish. And they'll live long, long lives, but they'll all be foolish. Or you can have one son who will be extremely intelligent and intuitive, but he's only going to live for a short period of time. Which would you prefer to have? Which would you prefer to have? You want 1,000 sons that live a long time but are foolish, or one son that's wise, that's intelligent and intuitive, but only lives a little while? Which would you prefer to have? Do you know? One. You know one? Yeah, you got a couple ones? Still in the valley of decision on that? What about you? Still trying to figure that one out. Okay. Well, the wise man said, that's easy. I'll take one son. One son, even though he's going to live a short period of time. I'd rather have him intelligent and intuitive. And so he and his wife were blessed with child. You know, she immediately became pregnant, and shortly thereafter, about 9 months out, you know, she had this baby, you know, after the back hurting and the this and the that. You know, she finally has this baby, and they're so happy. They're so happy. They're raising the baby. They're playing with the baby. They're feeding the baby. The baby's growing. All this good stuff is happening with the baby. They are so excited about it that they forget to tell him that his life's going to be short. They forget to tell him. I mean, it's like every day there was something new to do. The sun and the running and the picking the flowers and the eating the food and the making things and the chasing the little chickens. They were doing it. They were having such a good time. And they forgot. And 16 years passed. And if you ask your mommies and daddies, you will see that it does not take long for you to get to this age. Like yesterday, you were like this. You were itty bitty things. You were in our hands. We were holding you up to the sky and praying over you. And now you don't even want us to hold you anymore. Or you're too big. I tried to hold this one's hand walking down the street. She wouldn't let me do it. You know, I mean, I remember. And I remember when she used to cry when we were going back home from walks together. She used to cry and I'd sing her songs, and now she didn't want to hold my hand walking down the street. So that's what happened. That's what happened. The little boy, he turned 16. On the day of his 16th birthday, his daddy looks at him and remembers what is going to happen. He says, son, this is what, I want you to stay next to me all day. Just stay next to me all day. And so he stayed next to his father all day. He obeyed. But at some point during the day, his father got distracted by something. Something called his attention, and the boy ran away. Ran out the back door. Just ran away. And the reason was he knew that on his birthday he had to thank God for life. And even his father wouldn't be upset about this. So he ran to the temple. And when he got to the temple, he knelt in front of the altar, in front of the candle. And Yama, death showed up. Boy didn't see death. But you know, Yama carried this lasso, this kind of noose that he would throw around people and grab them by their necks, you know. And so while the boy was sitting there, Yama swung his noose and threw it. And the boy was so excited about the opportunity to thank God for life that it was just at that moment he bowed his head. Wow. And the noose missed him and grabbed the statue of God in front of him. And so Yama yanked on it, death yanked on it, and the statue fell and broke all up, and God got mad. How dare you come in my house, start messing stuff up? You know, so Yama God kicked Yama out, you know. And God kicked Yama out, and the boy survived. He lived. And so Sivitri said, so what am I supposed to learn from this? If you say it's happened before, he said, well, when death comes for you, let it grab hold to that peace of God. And if you do, he'll always miss you, and life will continue for you. So there may be a cure to death, but we might have to take some time to figure out what all that means. Huh? All right.